It is, however, disheartening that some elements are abusing this free environment guaranteed by the government. We are alarmed by the level of reckless reporting and statements by some media organizations and individuals that border on national security and stability. While we sometimes view and treat these occasional reports as part of media's normal work, we have now seen a pattern that is difficult to be wished away as normal journalism. The insidious and inciting publications by the Daily Trust newspapers these past months have come across as nothing but a deliberate effort to brush the government with a tar. On many occasions, we have restrained ourselves from believing that this was indeed the case. But the consistency of the mischievous publication by the Media Trust newspaper leaves us with no option than to believe so. In the aftermath of the coup in Niger Republic, for example, Daily Trust championed a jaundiced narrative that the federal government was driving the country into war and twisted it with regional sentiment to cause disaffection amongst our people. The same newspaper gave a banner headline to a baseless accusation that the government was working on citing foreign military bases in the country. Neither Daily Trust nor the originators of that story provided any shred of evidence to prove its point. 2 weeks ago, Daily Trust also concocted and popularized a lie that the federal government had renamed Murtala Mohammed Expressway in Abuja to Wole Soyinka Way. In all these instances, all that the paper depended on were falsehoods and hearsays. They showed no remorse or even humility to recount their story. We, however, did not envisage that Daily Trust and the people behind it could descend to the reckless level of attempting to set the country on fire by falsely accusing the government of signing a deal to promote LGBTQ. We found that despicable and wicked because the allegation is nowhere in the document signed on behalf of the federal government. Surprisingly, the paper put forward no evidence nor provide the agreement allegedly signed to prove their point. The baseless and sensational story unfortunately formed a basis for khutbah, that means Friday sermons, by some of our respected imams around the country who were misled by the story, thereby raising tempers around the country. On the part of government, we continue on the honorable path of civility by restraining ourselves from taking self-help or any draconian measures as we have seen in this country in the past. While past governments have attempted or indeed have clamped down on the media for infractions much lower than this, we have decided to toe the path of civility and the rule of law. This country is governed by laws and it is a democratic nation, and the government is desirous of keeping it so. This afternoon, I have the Honorable Minister of Budget and National Planning, who indeed is at the center of this story, to provide details of that. But beyond this, the federal government has decided to lodge a formal complaint to the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria's Ombudsman on this irresponsible reporting. In addition, the federal government will use every lawful means to seek redress in the court of law. The federal government, once again, wishes to reiterate its friendly policy towards ethical and free speech. Government would, however, not take fake news and disinformation lightly, and, in fact, will go a long way to ensure that peace and stability is maintained in the country. The reporting by Daily Trust should form a basis for all of us to understand what fake news, misinformation, or disinformation is. And let me reiterate that this is by no means an attempt by the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to gag the Nigerian press. I have said it severally here and elsewhere that the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will continue to ensure that there is freedom of expression and that the press will have a free environment to practice what we believe is necessary for the continuous enthronement of democracy in our land. However, like I've said earlier, fake news, misinformation, disinformation, and any attempt to incite the Nigerian public against a legitimate government will not be tolerated, because we believe that that cannot be called responsible journalism. I will therefore wish to call on the Nigerian media to continue to show respect to our Constitution, respect to all that we require for democracy to continue to thrive in this country. But let me say once again, for reasons of emphasis, that the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not in any way, form, or shape do anything that will stifle freedom of expression in Nigeria. It is in that spirit that we have the Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning to provide details of what is contained in the agreement that was signed on behalf of federal government. And not to only do that, to also give the Nigerian media the copy of the actual agreement that was signed by the federal government. This, we believe, will give members of Nigerian media the opportunity to go through line by line, clause by clause, to see what the Nigerian government has signed on its behalf. But let me say, for reasons of emphasis, that the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not in any way sign anything that goes against our Constitution, our laws, our culture, and our various faiths. Whatever has been done is in the interest of this country. Let me, at this juncture, invite the Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning to make some comments as regards what was signed, and then thereafter take questions, if there are, from the media. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, advisors, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen that are all here. Good afternoon, everyone. The Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, by its mandate, is responsible for bilateral economic cooperation, regional economic cooperation, registration of development partners, non-governmental organizations, and international non-governmental organizations. It worked closely with all other ministries. This function came about because the ministry started out as a national planning commission, just like other federal states. And the management of bilateral economic relationship derives from the national planning mandate, which defines what we want to achieve, who we want to relate to achieve that, and understandably the function resides in the budget and in the budget and planning function. Having said that, and because time is of the essence, and in particular to address the issue that has been in the media, especially in the last 72 hours, in relation to an agreement called Samoa Agreement, which also have different names, Post-Cotonou Agreement, and the more proper formal name, which is Partnership Agreement between the European Union and its member states on the one part, and members of the Organization of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific States of the other part. So if you hear Post-Cotonou Agreement or the Partnership Agreement that I just read, or Samoa Agreement, they meant the same thing. It's called Samoa Agreement because EU and Africa, Caribbean and Pacific countries met in Samoa, which is a country in the Pacific, last year, October, with the intention of signing the agreement. The EU members, 27 of them, had signed the agreement then, and in Samoa, a number of other countries signed. Nigeria was not in attendance, not because we are disputing the agreement, but because the government was just settling down and we know that we have time to deal with it. The partnership between Nigeria and the Organization of Africa, Caribbean and Pacific States, OACPS, dates back to the Georgetown Agreement of 1975, which brought together countries in Africa, Caribbean and Pacific for establishment of a framework for trade and development cooperation with the European Union as its main objective. The Georgetown Agreement, which is also described by some as Lomé Agreement, is the first relationship agreement between this organization of countries in which Nigeria belonged to and the European Union as a body. After the Georgetown Agreement in 2000, the Organization of Africa, Caribbean and Pacific countries entered into an agreement with the European Union, which is called Cotonou Agreement, which also provides a range of areas of relationship, and from which Nigeria have benefited about 1.7 billion naira in grant alone, which is through the 9th and 10th European Development Fund during the period 2000 to 2020, or 2020 for short. A recent survey shows that over 5,000 water, sanitation, energy, education and health and other micro-project interventions were executed in about 4,800 communities in Nigeria over the course of the Cotonou Agreement. In 2018, in anticipation of the expiration of the Cotonou Agreement, the European Union and the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States launched the process for negotiation of a successor partnership agreement ahead of the expiration of the Cotonou Agreement. At its 107th session in Lomé, Togo, the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific Council of Ministers adopted a negotiated mandate and appointed the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Togo, Professor Robert Ducy, as the chair of the Organization of Africa, Caribbean and Pacific States Central Negotiating Group. In launching the formal process for negotiations on the sidelines of the 73rd UN General Assembly, the essence of the new partnership was to contribute to the attainment of sustainable development in all OACPS countries through strengthened and deepened political and economic partnership with the OACPS as a more effective global player. The following themes of the negotiation: human rights, democracy and governance in people-centered rights-based societies, peace and security, human and social development, environmental sustainability and climate change, inclusive sustainable economic growth and development, and migration and mobility. The finalized text for a new partnership agreement between the OACPS and the EU was initialed on 15th April 2021, comprising of a common foundational compact and 3 regional protocols, namely Africa EU, Caribbean EU, and Pacific EU regional protocols, with each regional protocol addressing the peculiar issues of the regions. The negotiations and outcomes of the agreement were largely based on universally accepted international laws, conventions, treaties applicable to the parties, while recognizing the supremacy of the constitutions of the constituent countries and local laws. The Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, in close collaboration with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Federal Ministry of Justice, duly followed up through an interministerial committee on the negotiation of the Samoa Agreement since September 2018, and confirms that that outcome is in line with the global conventions which Nigeria subscribes to and relevant for advancement of multilateralism, to Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and our laws and measures for deepening the developmental cooperation with EU and OACPS. In addition, our national development blueprints, the views of stakeholders for national positions on issues in the negotiation process were harvested through the following notable engagements: interministerial meeting on the Nigeria ACP-EU partnership on Wednesday, 28 March 2018, sensitization workshop on negotiation of the OACPS EU post-Cotonou agreement on 17th to 19th September 2018, interministerial meeting on the draft evolving text of the post-Cotonou agreement on 30th to 1st December 2020, as well as several interministerial meetings between budget and economic planning, foreign affairs, Federal Ministry of Justice, as well as a seminar on the new framework and instrument of the cooperation held at the Ritz Continental Hotel in Abuja, Friday, 8 March 2024. Signing of the post-Cotonou partnership agreement, which, like I said earlier, is called Samoa Agreement because it was signed in Samoa, or the full name Partnership Agreement between the European Union and its member states. At the event for signing of the new partnership agreement in Apia, Samoa, on 15th November 2023, 47 out of the 79 Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific countries endorsed the agreement. Ahead of the 30th June 2024 deadline for the parties, Nigeria signed the agreement on Friday, 28 June 2024 at the Organization for Africa, Caribbean and Pacific Secretariat in Brussels, Belgium, after the last consultative meetings. After the last consultative meeting, Nigeria's endorsement was accompanied with a statement of declaration, which is provided for in the agreement, clarifying and understanding the context of the agreement. The Samoa Agreement, the Post-Cotonou Agreement, or the Partnership Agreement is a vital legal framework for cooperation between the OACPS and the European Union, with the aim of promoting sustainable development, fighting climate change and its effect, generating investment opportunities, and fostering collaboration among OACPS member states at the international stage. The EU and all its 27 member states signed the Samoa Agreement on 15th November 2023. Out of the 79 members of the Organization of Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific states, 74 have signed before the deadline of June 30th, 2024. The Organization of Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific members that are yet to sign are Equatorial Guinea, Cuba, Trinidad and Tobago, and Nauru and Tuvalu in the Pacific. The agreement is one of several cooperation agreements that Nigeria signed with different countries. And also, even with the EU, in addition to this framework agreement, we sign a number of agreements before implementing any articles. The Samoa Agreement contains 103 foundational articles and then 79 other articles in the Africa Regional Protocol. The reviews conducted by the Ministries of Budget and Economic Planning, Foreign Affairs and Justice confirms that none of those articles, which are the 103 foundational and 79 African region specific protocol, none of them offends our constitution or laws. There is nowhere in those documents where LGBTQ is mentioned, even in passing. There is no article which can be construed in our laws to mean acquiescing, approving, supporting LGBTQ rights. Furthermore, the declaration that we signed along with the agreement clarified our position, not because we are in any doubt, but it clarified our position in regards to other areas, particularly in fossil fuels, because, for example, the EU, in moving towards cleaner energy, we were careful in stating that we are a country blessed with oil and gas. So to the extent that that agreement which we signed can be misconstrued as limiting our investment or further development of gas, that is incorrect. And anything that we sign within that agreement, in our interpretation, it must be in tandem with our constitution and laws. And to the extent that it is not, it is null and void. The relationship between EU and Nigeria is growing. Our president had met President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, have met with a number of EU leaders, and they have expressed support for the commendable, bold reforms he has undertaken. The German President, Chancellor, was in Nigeria. Mr. President has been to France. He has met with Netherlands. He has met with Denmark leadership. We have had high-profile visits by EU commissioners, members of EU Parliament, and in appreciation of the Nigeria that President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is building. President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is unapologetic in his respect for Nigeria's constitution and sovereignty. He respects Nigeria's diversity, Muslims and Christians. He appreciates Nigerian sensitivities. He will never approve or support or engage in anything that can be damaging or that can be seen to be insensitive to our religious or otherwise other sensitivities. The agreement which Nigeria have signed is to foster cooperation in the different areas which are diverse, and today we are sharing with the media copies of what Nigeria had signed so that you can look at it freely, independently, and I'm sure you will come to the same view as we. In the last few days, the hard-working men and women of the ministry and other employees of government have been inundated by messages from concerned Nigerians to clarify the positions of the particularly which was amplified by the Delhi Trust story. There is no $150 billion loan amount in the agreement. Nigeria is not negotiating, neither has it been offered $150 billion or euro loan by Europe or any country in the world. All the articles of the agreement, we will provide documents to provide further what they mean. And last but not the least, we have to appreciate the interests of Nigerians, particularly well-meaning Nigerians that have reached out seeking to establish the truth. We are even a bit disappointed that some of the media outfit, even when we provided them with information to show theirs that what they said is incorrect, have been hesitant, as far as I know, in issuing, in correcting and therefore misinforming. Not surprisingly, many people who ordinarily believe in these media houses have tended to rely on what the media outfits have said to make comments, which is regrettable. I want to assure Nigerians, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government, and certainly in his directive to the ministry, did not authorize anything that is hurtful to our constitution, law, or sensitivities. We have not signed in the numerous cooperation agreements we have with different countries, US, through USAID, Japan, Korea, Asia, Latin America, and European countries. We have not signed anything that can undermine our constitution or laws, or have acquiesced to or agreed to any clause that is insensitive to our highly valued, revered religious values. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. In line with our tradition, we will ask the moderator to call for at least 3 questions, 1, 2, 3 questions. If you need clarity, 3 questions, if you need clarity so that we can make those clarifications for you. Thank you.
All right, at a show of hands, 1, 2, please. Please, go. The lady in front first, then the gentleman in the blue cap.
Good afternoon. My name is Medina Dauda Nadabu. I am of the Voice of America Bureau here in Abuja. Now, I want to know, Minister Sir, if there is no money involved in this Samoa agreement, why must Nigeria sign? Why would Nigeria sign any agreement that is not beneficial to the country? How are you going to convince Nigerians to trust you? These are my 2 questions. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The gentleman behind. The gentleman. Yeah, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sorry, I'm sorry. The Honorable Minister has requested that he thinks that answering this question will help to answer so many other questions that will come. Our tradition will have been we get all the questions together and then answer generally. But he requests that he answers this one, and then we'll give you the opportunity now further to ask your question. So just a minute, please. We'll come to you as soon as he answers this.
Thank you very much. So I requested my brother, the minister, because this question is very significant and maybe it can help. Why are we signing an agreement at all? I think that's the question. That is why sorry? No, I didn't say, so I'll come. That is why when I started, I gave history that not only with the EU, Nigeria signs a cooperation agreement with many countries. In fact, it's a requirement by those countries so that it set out the parameters of the cooperation. We had one with EU in 1975. We have the we have the Cotonou agreement. When you get a copy of the document, you will see that this is a broad agreement. It is about education. It is about food security. It is about water and sanitation. It is about decent work. It is about demography. It is about youth. It is about culture and sustainable development. It is about inclusive economic development. It is about private sector development. It is about human rights, democracy, and rule of law. It is about good governance, public administration, personal data, peace and security. So those are how the articles are. Each article is about an area of cooperation. We sign agreement with EU to say that we believe we can cooperate in these areas, in the several areas which are about 100 and almost 200 distinct areas, global ocean governance. And when we sign this agreement, especially I will restrict my answer to this particular EU OACP. So even when we sign this agreement, we have to also sign specific implementation agreement. For example, we have a rule of law agreement, which will say, we have just signed one, I think about 4 months ago, which will say, EU will say for this period of time, between 2024 to 2027, for example, we are going to give you this amount of money. I think the rule of law one, for example, is 30 million to support ICPC, to support EFCC, to support Ministry of Justice, and other we have the migration agreement also. We also have the democratic institutions framework. So what I said is that within this agreement, there is nowhere where it is mentioned that Nigeria is going to receive 150 billion or any sum for that matter. But these areas of cooperations are areas which will develop further, explore further, and they will lead to capital, will lead to support, will lead to technical support so that we can enhance food production. One of the biggest support we are receiving from the EU, for example, is part of our digital, it's called IDIS, which is our digital, about $600 million worth of projects are coming under that. So I was saying that there is nowhere in the body of the document where you will see 150 billion. But these are agreements which I believe, like with other countries, it defines what we want to relate with those countries in and how to go about it. I hope I've
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Is there a second question?
Thank you, sirs. My name is Dr. Leon Sigbe of the Nigerian Tribune. So, the Honorable Minister of National Planning, Budget and National Planning. In the course of your presentation, you said Nigeria's signing was accompanied by a declaration. That Nigeria's signing of the document was accompanied by a declaration clarifying the understanding of the agreement. So I'm wondering whether there is any chance that Nigeria's understanding of the agreement may be different from that of the EU or the framers of the document. And if there is a risk of that, what can be the implication? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Minister. Is there any other question? Honorable Minister, sir.
Thank you very much. Declaration agreement. The European Union, in a public document, which will also maybe either provide the link or print out for members, also explained that the 27 member countries themselves have differences, national differences about some areas of the cooperation. So that is even them on the one hand. So you can imagine what about 79 other countries. That is why the agreement provides a proviso where a country, each country, is not just Nigeria, can issue a declaration clarifying some basis in which it is signing. Like I gave the example, one of the obvious ones, and we'll make the declaration available, is a public document that was presented along with it. We didn't offer it because of concerns about misrepresentation about LGBT, for example. We are clear, you'll see it. But I gave the example of, but we were worried that because of the way Europe is moving to clean energy, we don't want to sign something that limits our capacity to develop our oil and gas sector clearly. So one of the declarations you'll see make it clear that even though we sign any climate thing we sign, we are categorical that is not to limit our that is not to limit us in any way, consistent with our constitution and laws and developmental strides. And other elements of the declaration are such, and more importantly, it establishes President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's confidence in Nigeria's, assertiveness in Nigeria's sovereignty, that where we said that whatever offends our constitution and laws is null and void, not because we are worried, but just for clarification. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, the Honorable Minister, for those clarifications. Let me reiterate once again that the Ministry of Information and National Orientation under my leadership will do everything possible to ensure transparency, honesty in the dissemination of credible information. We made this solemn pledge at the beginning when we took office, and we will continue to do that. We call on you, members of the media, to please help us to spread only what is correct and what you know you can verify. It is normal and indeed within the right of the media to scrutinize the affairs of government. Nobody can take that away. But it is important that care is taken so that when information is being passed, we only present what we know to only be true, credible, honest, and in the best interest of our nation. Whenever information is being spread that will harm our unity, that will harm our collective existence as a nation, then, of course, there must be something to be asked there. We will continue to provide information to the media as needed. And we also implore the media to please report only what is factual. The series of headlines we think that we have received from the newspaper in question has given us a cause for concern. We must say that. For me, as member of this industry, I'm really particularly pained that I have to come to address a particular medium in this regard. But it is important because we have made this pledge that we're only going to provide what is credible, what we know to be factual. The President and this administration will not in any way, and I repeat, the President will not sign or cause any of his officials to sign anything that will harm our nation. Not in any way. So all those clamoring that there is a signature out there that gives away our country as an LGBT compliant country or seeking to do that is mischaracterization, misrepresentation. The federal government insists that our laws will be respected, our norms will be respected, our tradition will also be respected, and our various faiths. The two major religions here are against it. There is a law existing against the issue of LGBT. The federal government of Nigeria will not go against that. I think it is important that we put this out there. For those who have reacted, largely due to ignorance, there is also a surah, Surah Al-Hujurat in the Holy Quran. Before you put out any information out there, it is important that you cross-check and be sure of your facts. We call on our ulamas, and we are already engaging them, and all religious leaders from both the Muslims and the Christian faith to show understanding at this very difficult time. We will continue to engage them. We will continue to put out the truth there. We will continue to give them. That is why we came not just with the document that Nigeria signed, but the entire document relating to the whole issue of the Samoa, the so-called Samoa Agreement, the post-Cotonou Agreement. There is nothing, we have examined it. The Attorney General of the Federation has examined it, like the Honorable Minister of Budget has said, and there is nothing that is seen there that is of concern. But of course, government is there to continue to clarify, to continue to explain, and to continue to appeal for the understanding of not just the media, but for the Nigerian population, for us to continue to grow on the path of progress and unity of our country. Please, we call on all of you, and I want to use this opportunity to thank those media organizations that have provided clarity by fact-checking some of these claims put forward by this particular newspaper. It has been fast-checked, the statements and all the document is actually on there, and the e-copy of this agreement has also been shared. And like we said, we are also going to give you the physical copies. Please help us to educate our fellow countrymen so that together we can build a virile and prosperous country. I want to thank you once again for, yes, there's another appeal that the Honorable Minister wants to make.
Sorry, Honorable, just to appeal, Mr. President has undertaken, consistent with his campaign promise, a very, very demanding diplomacy in order to convince the world that we needed all the support, and the world is taking them seriously because they saw transparency, because they saw clarity. I recall when we visited Saudi Arabia for the first time, the Minister of Investment of Saudi Arabia stated that they compare what President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing to that of his brother, the Crown Prince in Saudi Arabia, taking bold, courageous measures that maybe should have been taken decades ago. Development partners, as you very well know, are also media savvy. They see what is happening. So let us not ridicule our nation based on misrepresentation. Let us support the commendable endeavors and reward the hard work so that the development partners we are relating with, the investors we are looking for, will be strengthened in our resolve. When an investor or a development partner see a lie carried too far, they will have the right to worry. So we know that some will do it because it's politically expedient. We can do nothing about it. But we believe the majority of Nigerians are able to see facts for themselves and support so that Nigeria can continue to be respected. Nigeria can continue to be an investment destination, and also to appreciate that hard-working men and women in service, in ministries, are dealing with these issues, and they will be demoralized if all they see is their effort being misrepresented by somebody with a big voice in society using their power wrongly, a media house or a group of media entrepreneurs. So I appeal to all Nigerians to support the bold, courageous endeavors that we are taking so that our development partners will also be strengthened in continuing to relate with us and to know that we appreciate what they are doing for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have come to...
Thank you very much, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. With that, we've come to the end of this press conference. May we please rise as we take the first stanza of the national anthem. Thank you. The Honorable Minister wants to make an intervention.
Yes, we want to make presentation of copies. Yes, we'll copy, all of them will have copies, all those that are here. We make, who is the leader of this place? The dean of the,
There's a general component, 100, sorry. As earlier stated, this is a full copy of the Samoa agreement. It consists of different components. This is a general compact with 103 articles. 103 articles. Then this is the Africa Regional Protocol with 79 articles. These are the two that Nigeria signed. This is the Caribbean Pact and Pacific, but we are just providing all for completeness. So this is a complete document. We have a smaller version that contains just the Nigerian portion, but for completeness, this is, and we'll make enough copies available, and they are available. They are available electronically. The link will be shared. Thank you.
Just for clarity, this is a bulkier document because it involves all the agreements signed by the Europeans, the Caribbean, and African general Pacific countries. The other one, because some people may say that one is smaller, bring one copy of that. Bring a copy. This is the one that relates to the one that Nigeria signed. So we are sharing this amongst you so that you can scrutinize and see what has been signed on your behalf. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.